So I ran a sentiment analysis on every single one of Michael Saylor's tweets. And what I found here was pretty surprising to me. First of all, what are we looking at here? So in the top section, the orangish yellow, we've got the Bitcoin price. In the red, we have the MicroStrategy stock price. Underneath that, we have Michael Saylor's posts per week over time throughout the entirety of MSTR stacking sats. And this bottom section is the one that's the most interesting. What this display is the average sentiment analysis of his tweets over time. I've ran every single one of these through a tool that I've configured to help set up whether there is positive or negative language around the tweets, gave each and every one of them a level, and then watched how this trends over time. And I wasn't sure if there was going to be a tight correlation here, but it ended up being extremely interesting. And I personally see myself in the data, and I'm curious if you do too. Relatively predictably, you see that during bear markets and down price action, his mood drops. Like, as much as he communicates really professionally and with like the AI generated images and things he does, there is a clear correlation here where you can see that the language he is using becomes a little bit more negative and much more positive during certain time periods. And I found that those time periods are really interesting. So his lowest ever sentiment period was not at the absolute bottom. It was actually right here. I'll click into this and you'll see the kind of things he was tweeting about at the time. This was June 20th of 2022. The mood was so low because this bad sell-off here really finally changed the vibe. Like anybody who's in the market at this time, you kind of realize like, okay, this bull market is formally over. We are entering a long potential bear market in front of us. And this was Michael Saylor's first time coming to terms with the fact that he was going to have to sustain this strategy throughout a prolonged bear market. Vibes very quickly return after there's like a little bit of positive price action here. Maybe it's over. Crash again. I think this is right after the FTX collapse when things hit their bottom. But it wasn't quite as bad because, again, there's still some optimism. Then this next period I found also very interesting. The most aggressive flip in vibes happened right here. And I found this true in myself too, looking back at this, where price got back up to around over 20K very convincingly. And it really seemed like there was more news happening. If we click in here, you'll see some of the things he was tweeting about too. Yeah, MicroStrategy, repaid its Silvergate loan, some other stuff happening in that time period. And then we enter the most positive time period in his entire history. And it's understandable to see why. There was a lot of hope for Bitcoin. It seemed like there was a lot of consistency and positivity coming. And if we look at the very top things here, you'll see that they just keep on stacking. They're approaching 160K Bitcoin. And the strategy has worked. He has sustained the bear market and they are on the upswing. There's talks of ETFs getting approved, which maybe he had some information on or thought it was going to happen because his sentiment was at an absolute peak before this happened, which is another interesting dynamic. Bottomed out again in the summer and stayed pretty high. So right now, vibes are much lower. But again, curiously, it's actually not on the absolute bottom that the sentiment drops. It is when things look like they are ending, when there is a shift in market conditions, when it becomes obvious that we're not just deep in this euphoric bull market anymore. We are not, however, at current sentiment levels in the absolute gutter. Like, who knows? Like, the price impacts all of us. There's a lot of stuff housed in this data that may or may not be signal heavy. But what it does do is show that Saylor is not deeply worried right now. And I think that is an incredible takeaway. There's a lot of different people on Twitter who are screaming about different things right now. And they should not all be treated equally. Like, there's a lot of really stupid perspectives out there. When I was first coming to Bitcoin, I had a lot of them, and I said a lot of dumb stuff on Twitter. But I also don't think that people should be as panicked as they are right now. And I think it's pretty clear from the data that Michael Saylor is not panicked about the situation. I'm going to keep analyzing this. I think this kind of thing is super interesting. I love language, and I think there is so much about the words that we choose to use and how that tells a story about us. If there's anything specific you want to see in this data, let me know because I'm going to nerd into it deep over the coming weeks here. Thanks for the time.